This conference will now be recorded.
Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I'm a little late today, so without further wasting any more time, let's quickly jump to the topic. So we were talking about partitions and file system. So we have discussed the theoretical part. I hope you might have went through that concepts and all. We saw some very basic things in partitioning like checking the details about the disk and other things. Now let's move ahead and let's try to talk about, let me just get rid of these two things which are not needed. All right, so let's log in into our machine and let's try to do more practicals that will give us a little more exposure on how to deal with disks, partitionings and all. So in the last class, I've showed you a command fdisk-l and also parted-l, which will tell you how many disks are connected and each disk is having how many partitions inside it. So we have one disk with 25 GB, which is divided into these many sectors. And here is the sizes of each partition, 1 GB, 15 GB, 4 GB. So 15 plus 1 plus 4 altogether 20 GB. So out of 25 GB, 20 GB is used and 5 GB is left in which we can do partitioning. Of course, GIB, not GB. And here it is telling us that this disk is SCSI based disk whose size it is showing in GB. GB is greater than GIB, so it might show little extra size, but this is the correct size. Okay, and it is showing us that there are three primary partitions created. Now, I told you in the last class that if you are dealing with MBR or MS-DOS style partitions, in that you can make three primary partition, one extended partition, and remaining, which is 12 logical partitions per disk. So in this disk, already three primary partitions are made. Now you have a choice that you can make one more primary partition and finish the concept of partitioning, or you can make an extended partition. Inside that extended partition, you can make several logical partitions. So let me go for it and let me show you how to make a partition in a disk. Which disk you are targeting? I'm targeting the disk whose name is SDA. And the full location of that disk is /dev SDA. So always remember, whenever you want to make partition in a disk, you should know the complete path of the disk, which starts from dev and inside it SDA. So first of all, we are going to learn fdisk utility. Guys, there are multiple methods to create a disk. Minimum two ways are there. One is with fdisk utility and the other one is by using uh, parted utility. So first I'm going to show you with fdisk. Thereafter, I'll show you with parted also. First, we will go with fdisk because fdisk is one of the safest utility to create partitions. So let me say fdisk. In which hard disk you want to make the partitions? I'll say I want to make the partition in dev STA. So I'm telling fdisk, take me to that hard drive. Now in that hard drive using fdisk, I can make partitions, I can change the partitions, or I can delete the partition. All partitioning operations you can perform with this utility. Now when you hit enter, it opens one utility. It tells you that in this utility you can do whatever you want, but it won't take place until unless you save the changes. That is what I like the most about this utility. Now, I don't know how to work with this utility, then what shall I do? See, it is giving you a hint here that type M for help. Actually, M is for printing the menu, but anyway, M for help. When you type M, it prints the menu of the command that you can use. So all these alphabets at the left side are nothing but the command what you can use. For example, if you want to print how many partitions are there in the disk and all, you can use a command called P. P will print the partition table which displays the status of your disk and partitions. Same way, if you want to add a new partition, you can go with N. N stands for adding new partition. Same way, if you want to delete a partition, you can go with D. D will be used for deleting the partition. Also, there is an option over here called G. See guys, when you add a new hard disk. Suppose a fresh disk you have added. There is no partition inside it. If you want to do partitioning, then you can go either with MBR style partitioning or you can go with GPT style partitioning. So if you want to go with a GPT style partitioning, you can go with G that creates a new GPT partition table. So according to GPT, you can go with 128 partitions. Or if you want to go with MBR style partitioning, then you can go with O. So on a new hard disk, you can go with G or O. On an existing hard disk, if you use this option, it's so dangerous that it is going to wipe out all the partitions and you will lose all the data. So if it is a fresh disk, you are starting to do partitioning, then you can opt for GPT or MBR and you can go for any style of partitioning. On an existing hard disk, if you use this command, all the existing partitions, whatever is created, will be wiped out. So be very careful not to use it unless you know what exactly you are trying to do. Anyway, let me try out the command P. Now, when I type P option, let me just make it a little smaller. When you type P, you see it is displaying same fdisk-l output, which is showing you what is the disk you have, how many partitions does it have, etc. Right? Now let us say that I would like to add a new partition. Guys, any point of time, if you forget the command, there is no worries. You can just type M, print the menu, find out what command you want to run and use it. So every time M is available for help to print the menu. Now we used P that printed the partition table. Now let us say I would like to add a new partition. To add a new partition, I have to say N. When you hit enter, every command you have to hit enter after that. So when I hit enter, it gives me a choice. You can use P option to continue creating a primary partition. What did I told you? If you go with 4 primary, then there will be no more partitioning after that. Even though if the space is remaining, if you have created 4 primary, that means all partitions are finished. There will be no more partitioning after 4 primary. Or you can keep 3 primary. Rest of the space you can convert into extended partition that will allow you to create more partitions inside it. So I'll go for E for extended. So let me type E and hit enter. When I hit enter, the first question it would be asking you is where to start the partitioning. See guys, I told you that every partition here it is showing you start and end sector. Now you need to follow the guidelines what it is giving you here, where you can have a starting sector and what is the maximum available sectors you can use. I explained you about these sectors in the last class that if few sectors are here and there, it's okay, there is nothing to worry. But Cylinders, if they are mismatching, then it is going to be a big problem. So that why they have avoided giving us cylinder calculation, so that if some sectors are missing here and there also, there wouldn't be a big loss to us. Anyway, here it is giving us a guideline. So it says that your new partition can start on this sector value 41945088. Is it taking the same value here? Exactly, 99.9% it will automatically take the correct value only. In case, rarest of rare it happens, in case if the sector value is not proper according to your calculation, then you can type whatever correct sector you think. So in my case, it is perfectly taking the proper value 41945088. So I don't have to worry on that ground. I'll simply hit enter to accept the value what it is taking as default. Now, as I told you, whenever you are creating an extended partition, you should use all the available space. For example, you are having 100 GB hard disk. Let's say this is a 100 GB hard disk. Inside it, there are three partitions with 10 GB. So 30 GB is used. Now I'm left with 70 GB. With the entire 70 GB, I'm going to create extended partition. Now instead of 70, if you chose 65 GB, the 5 GB, what you're not mentioning over there, will be useless. It will be wasted. So never try to reserve even a single sector when you are creating extended. All the available space must be dedicated to extended. Whatever space you are trying to reserve cannot be used further than. So what is the last available sector it is mentioning here? It says that the last available sector is 52428799. Here also it is mentioning the same value. So I want to end my partition till the last available sector 52428799. So till that sector, whatever space is there, I want to use all that available space, whole one 52428799. Now let me hit enter to accept it. If you think that value is not correct, then you are allowed to type anything. But I'm okay, I want to use all the space. I want to consume all the available space. So I'm going with the last available sector. So you see, it says created a new partition whose type is extended and the size is 5 GB. So out of 25 GB, as I calculated earlier, 20 GB was used, 5 GB was free. So now I have given all the space remaining. So the remaining 5 GB is used for creating extended partition. That's great. Now print the partition table by typing P and enter. So this will display that your fourth partition has been created with 5 GB of capacity. Okay, all right. Now what's the next thing we have to do? See, inside extended, we can create a logical partition. Now I'll press one more time N. See, to create a new partition, you have to type N. Last time when I type N, it gave me a choice. Would you like to go with primary or extended, right? This time when I say N, how beautifully it explains us the scenario you see. It says all primary partitions are in use. So adding fifth partition as logical. So inside extended, whatever partitions that would be created will be logical partitions only. And again, it is giving us a guideline that this new partition should start at a value 41947136. Is it the same value it is taking by default? Yes. If it is not the same, then you can type whatever the correct value you see at the left hand side. So as it is perfect, I don't have to make any changes inside. So let me accept that value by hitting enter. But this time, I don't want to give the size by using sectors. What I wanted to do here is, I simply want to tell that create a partition with 10 GB capacity, 50 GB capacity, 200 GB capacity, or 500 MB capacity. How can I say simply in size? You can use plus size, K for kilobyte, M for megabyte, G for gigabyte, T for terabyte, and P for petabyte. That is the units what you can use. KIB, MIB, GIB, TIB, and PIB. So suppose I want to create 500 MB. We have only 5 GB remaining, so I cannot create 10 GB capacity. Maximum I can create is 5 GB. What I want to do is I want to create simple small 500 MB capacity. So how it says to give the size? Plus and size. So that plus is equally important here. We should type plus and then you need to give the size. For example, I'll say plus 5 and suppose I want to go with GB, so I'll mention G. If you want to go with TB, you'll mention T. If you want to go with MB, just type M. Plus 500 M. I want to create 500 MB. So let me hit enter. Print the table. You see it automatically calculate the ending value on the size what I have given, and 500 MIB capacity partition is created. So this is the way in your hard disk you can create more partitions. If you have not yet created extended, first you must create extended, and inside extended you can create number of logical partitions. Now creation is done. Let us learn how to delete a partition. For example, I wanted to delete a partition. See, if you have not remembered the command, type M, menu will be printed and you can get the command what you're looking for. I know the command is D for deleting. So let me type D. When you hit enter, it will ask a question that 1 to 5, which partition you want to delete. Suppose I want to delete fifth partition, so I need to type fifth, delete fifth partition. See, if I delete extended, that is fourth, what will happen? Extended is a container for logical partition. If I delete fourth partition, all the logicals inside it will be automatically deleted. Suppose you have 5-floor building. Now, if you demolish ground floor, what do you expect? The whole building will collapse. So same way, when you delete extended directly, all the logicals present inside it will also be deleted. Keep that in mind. So let us say I want to delete fifth partition, hit enter, print the table and see your fifth partition is deleted. Now let's say I want to delete fourth partition, so I'll go with 4, right? Oh, I'm sorry, D, and then I'll type fourth partition. Now print the table and see your fourth and fifth, both partitions are deleted. Same way, if you want, you can delete third partition. And if you say D, it will delete second partition. And you say D, it is going to delete your last partition also. Print the table and see this hard disk is now having no partitions inside it. I have deleted all the partition. So guys, have I done a good thing by deleting all the partitions? Have I forgotten that this disk was having my operating system, root, boot, and swap partitions? I deleted those partitions also. There were 3 important partitions inside it, root, boot, and swap. Mistakenly, I have deleted those partitions also. Now, what could I do in this scenario? Shall I get panic? No. See guys, when you type M for menu, you'll find there are 2 options here. W, write table to disk and exit. That means apply the changes. Suppose you are working with VI editor or MS Word. Whatever work you have done, until unless you save it, it is not going to take effect. So it says you have to write the changes to the disk and then exit. Or there is one more option, Q, quit without saving the changes. Now, this thing I really like about Fdisk, that if you have done a mistake, there is one way you can make sure that the changes are not affected. So by mistake, I have deleted all the partitions which I should not have done. Now, what can I do in this scenario to come out of it without affecting the changes? So in this scenario, I'll be pressing Q, quit without saving the change. When you type Q, there will be no change. Just run fdisk-l. Did you find any new partitions added? No. Did you find any old partitions got deleted? No. So always keep in mind that in fdisk, whatever you are doing, it is not going to take place until unless you write or save the changes and quit. So there is always quit without saving. If you have done any mistake or if you're confused, just type Q, come out of it. There will be no change till your last changes, whatever you have done. So let me go back again into my hard disk. This time I'm going to create the partition, and this time I'm going to save those changes. So I'll go to fdisk/dev sta. Now inside it, if you don't know what command to use, type M. It will print the table of content, or it is going to show you all the commands that you can use. Now you can type P to print the partition table to see the status of partitioning. In this disk, I have 3 partitions. Now let me add a new partition. As 3 primaries are created, you have a choice to add one more primary and stop partitioning, or you can go with extended. Inside it, you can create more logical partitions. So I'll prefer E for extended. Now starting value, just check it out over here. Is it the same what it is displaying and taking? Yes, 41945088. That's absolutely fine. Let me hit enter. I want to use all the available space for extended. So I'm going to use till the last available sector, that is 52428799. What it is showing? It's showing here that the total available sector is 52428799, and I want to use the whole available space. So I'll not make any change. I'll just hit enter to accept the default value. Now print the partition table, P and enter. It shows you that your extended partition with 5 GB capacity is created. So now whatever new partition you are creating, you can create maximum up to 5 GB. That's the available space. Now let me go for N for adding a new partition. Now this new partition, it is giving us a guideline. It can start on 41947136, and it is taking absolutely correct value. So no need to type anything. Just hit enter to accept it. Now I would like to create a partition simply with 500, 700 MB or 1 GB, 2 GB, 3 GB. So you can use plus whatever size you want, followed by unit, K for KIB, M for MIB, G for GIB, T for TIB, and P for PIB. I want MIB, so I'll give plus 500 M. Now print the partition table and see your 5th partition has been created. Now I would like to save the changes and come out of this utility. I'm sure that whatever I have done is correct. So I would like to save it and quit this utility. So how to save and quit? You need to say W to write the changes to the disk and exit. So all changes are correct. I don't want to be worried about anything. So let me type W and hit enter. So you see, it says that your partition is now updated. But there is a warning which is coming in red color. Failed to add partition number 5 to system. Device or resource is busy. What does that affects? It says the kernel still uses the old table. The new table will be used at next reboot. That means whatever partition you have created got created in the disk. But kernel, the boss of the system, the kernel is not updated with that change. So it says the change is there in the disk, but it is not updated in the system. You can use those two partitions after next reboot. So it says if you want to use the newly added partition, you must reboot the system. So I want to investigate a little more about it. See guys, if I run fdisk-l, it says that in the disk, fourth and fifth, both partitions are updated. But the warning said that the fifth partition is not updated. Now, why I'm facing that error? And how should I know that according to kernel, according to disk, there are 5 partitions. According to kernel, what is the status of the disk? I want to check. It said, what it said? It said that kernel is not updated with new partition. So I want to see that as per kernel, how many partitions are updated. So you can go for a file in/proc with a name called partitions. Now this file will keep record of kernel status with respect to your hard disk. So according to kernel, there is a disk STA which have 4 partitions. So that fifth partition is not updated in kernel. Now guys, if a partition is not updated in kernel, that means you cannot use it. You cannot format it, you cannot mount it, you cannot put data into it. If you want to use it, kernel must be updated mandatorily. Now, how can I do that? How can I update the kernel? One way it asks us to reboot the machine. But guys, on production, rebooting machine may not be so easy because business might be running up. So rebooting might be a little complicated, challenging thing. So what we do or what we used to do till Red Hat 7 was we used to run this command part probe. Part probe is a scanner. It will scan the whole system for hardware change. So any new thing you have added, especially disk and all, so you can run part probe. It will find that which disk is newly added or in the disk, what is the new partition added, and it gets updated into kernel. So whenever you want to manually update kernel with new changes in your disks or your devices, we used to run part probe command. But you see, it is still giving us the same error. It says 5 partitions have been written, but we are unable to inform kernel. Kernel still goes with same 4 partitions, right? So it is not getting updated. This is a bug in Red Hat 8. Till Red Hat 7, whenever we create a partition, we used to run part probe and it used to get updated. But in Red Hat 8, there is a bug that whenever you create, let me put it in the words, whenever we create extended partition in a disk to continue working with logical partitions, we need to reboot the system, and this is mandatory. Right? So this is the problem in Red Hat 8. Maybe in the coming up version like 8.4, 8.5, we might see that this issue will be addressed. But till now, there is no proper solution to available it. Earlier, we used to simply run part probe command and that used to update the kernel. But now, whenever you have created extended one time, only one time after creating extended, you have to reboot the machine. You don't have to reboot the machine for every logical partition. This condition is only applicable whenever you have created extended partition. So first time in the hard disk when you have added extended partition, you must reboot the machine mandatorily. After rebooting, when you create logical partitions and all, it is never going to ask you to reboot the machine. Only for one time after creating extended, you must reboot the machine to continue with logical, right? So that's how it has to work, and that's how we have to go for it. So there's no other choice. We have to reboot the machine. So let me run reboot. See, if you run power off command, that is going to shut down your machine. If you run reboot machine, so when you say reboot, it is going to reboot your machine. So let's wait for some time till it's reboot. Once the system is rebooted, we'll again check the status of kernel by reading proc file system, proc partitions, I'm sorry, and then we'll see whether the fifth partition is updated or not. See, if in kernel a partition is not displaying, that means you are never ever going to use it, right? So until unless kernel is updated, there is no way we can use a partition. So let's wait for a few moments. Okay, so I think it's already booted almost. Great. Let me just reconnect same session. So right click on the top and say restart session. It might try to reconnect. Give username and password. So we have rebooted the system. Now, if you run fdisk-l, it is showing you 5 partitions in the disk. And if you go with proc and partitions, it is going to show you up till 5 partitions. So once we have created extended, in order to continue with logicals, you have to reboot the machine only one time. After this step, if we go and create further more partitions, it is never going to ask us to reboot. I'll show you by creating one more partition later, but first we will continue dealing with fifth partition. So you have created fifth partition. As I told you in the last class that if you want to use a partition to store the data, you must format it. Formatting is nothing but giving file system to a partition. If you don't give a file system to the partition, it won't be able to store the data properly. So in order to format it, we go with a command called mkfs. So this is the command. You can go with mkfs dot file system type. Now file system type, all we have discussed, ext2, ext3, ext4, or xfs. Whichever file system you want, you can go for it. And full path of the partition. You cannot simply give SDA5, SDA6. You have to mention dev and the partition. All devices information and partition informations are kept in /dev location only. So I'll say mkfs dot ext4 or xfs, whichever you want, followed by the partition address. So let me go for mkfs. Or one more thing, guys. How can I know whether the partition is formatted already or not? Say I'm new to this computer. How can I know SDA5 is already having a file system or not? You can run parted-l command. If a partition is having a file system here, it will display the name of that file system. If a partition does not have anything, it will show you empty. That means this partition is not having any kind of file system. That's also a hint to know whether a partition is having file system or not. Now let me say mkfs make file system dot whichever file system you want. You can go with ext234 or xfs. I'm going with ext4. Which partition? Space slash dev sdf5. Don't just give sdf5, it won't work. You have to give the full location. Hit enter and you see your partition got formatted. Now once it is formatted, you go with parted-l command and you see it is showing you here that this partition is now having ext4 file system applied. Now once the partition is formatted, if you want to put some data inside it, you have to mount it. We learned about mounting. Let me just refresh that one more time. See, we have a partition here called dev SDA5. This is my partition. Now I want to access it. As I told you last time also that these partitions and all cannot be directly accessed. You cannot say cat dev sda5 or you cannot run cd dev sda5. What happens if I do that? You see, if I say cd dev sda5, it says it's not a directory to go inside it. If I say cat dev sda5, it prints something like that and nothing is going to work out, right? So the problem is you can't directly access SDA5. So indirectly we have to go through a directory. I'll give you an example that you want to go to fifth floor or sixth floor of your building. You need to use elevator or stairs. That is the medium that will allow you to connect to your floor. Same way, if you want to access this partition, you should connect that partition with a directory or a folder. So I'm going to create a folder wherever you want in the system. There is no specific location. You can create this new directory in opt, tmp, var, or any location of your choice. I'm going with a simple location slash. Now inside slash, I'm going to create it with a name called test. Suppose I'm creating a directory with a name called test. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use test as a mount point. What do you mean by mount point? Mount point is the location through which you can access your partition. So if you want to work with SDA5, I'm creating an access point or mount point with the name called test. After that, I'm going to connect SDA5 to test. That means if you want to do anything in SDA5, you want to view the data of SDA5. You want to make changes in SDA5's data, or you want to add more new data into SDA5, you have to do it through test directory. So you need to take that test elevator and reach it to SDA5 and access the data inside your partition. Even if I give you a simple USB flash drive also or pen drive also, to access it, you need a laptop computer or desktop computer. So laptop desktop is working as an access point to your pen drive or your USB drive. Same way, test folder is working as an access point to reach out to SDA5. So when you connect a directory to a partition in order to access the data, this concept is called as mounting a partition or mounting a device. So what's the command we are going to use? A very simple command we are going to use here, that is mount, just mount. You have to say mount source and destination. Source is nothing but which partition you want to mount, and destination is nothing but the directory on which you want to mount it, right? So mount, partition name, and the directory that you want to connect, right? Now, let us see, first of all, the status of mounting. Guys, I want to check how many partitions are mounted right now. I want to see the status whether SDA5 is already mounted or not. So you can run a command called mount. Mount command, when you run, it reads one file. Which file? The file name is etcmtab. etc mtab is a file that keeps the information about all the current mounting, how many partitions are mounted, where they are mounted. But guys, this output will never confirm, it never even gives you a hint whether it is temporarily mounted or permanently mounted. I explained you in the last class temporary mount and permanent mount. If a partition stays connected to a directory even after reboot, it's a permanent mount. But if a partition lose the connection to a directory after rebooting, that's a temporary mount. But anyway, when you run mount command, it reads mtab and show you the current mount status, but it never tells you is it a temporary mounting or permanent mounting. It only shows you how many partitions are mounted and where they are mounted. That's it. It never tells it is temporary or permanent. But as you see, the output is so big. I just want to filter the output. Guys, we have learned filter command, isn't it? Have we not learned grep command? Why to see all the output and get confused? I just want to view all the partitions that has a word SDA inside it. So when I say mount, don't show me the full output, but show me only those partitions that has a name SDA. So I got only two names. SDA2 is connected to slash and SDA1 is connected to boot, but there is no SDA5 information. That means it is not yet mounted. So first of all, I'm going to learn how to make a temporary mount. Later, we will learn permanent mount also. So in order to make a permanent or temporary mount, I'll first create a directory. You can use any existing directory also, but to avoid confusion, I'm creating a fresh empty directory. So I'll say mkdir in slash. I want to create a directory called test. So I'm using slash at the beginning. That means I'm directing mkdir to go in top directory, that is slash, and there you create test. So if you run slash ls slash, you will find that your test directory is available over here. Now, if you read ls, show me what is in slash test, it's an empty directory, nothing is there. And if you run mount and grep for SDA, SDA5 is not yet mounted. Now to mount it temporarily, what's the command I told you? The command is simply mount followed by source and destination. So you need to say mount the device path, full path. Don't just give SDA5, you need to give slash dev SDA5 and the directory or mount point, the name of the directory and mount point which you have created. So you must create a directory or that directory should be already existing. If you give the name of the directory that is not yet created, it is going to fail, errors will be displayed, but it won't get mounted. And keep in mind, this is a temporary mount. So I'll say mount slash dev sdf5. This is the partition space the directory test. So I'm directing connect sdf5 to test so that through test I can access the content of sdf5. Now you go with mount and grep. Did you find sdf5 connected to test? Yes, that means anything you want to do in SDA5, you can do it through test. You want to view the data of SDA5, you have to go to test. You want to change the content of SDA5, do it through test. You want to add new data in SDA5, you have to do it through test. So test is the access point or mount point through which you can access the data of SDA5. Why we are doing all this thing? Because directly dev SDA5 is not an accessible thing. So indirectly with the help of mounting, we are doing all this activity. Now, if you go into slash test, where am I? I'm in slash test. Did you see there is one directory appear with the name lost plus found? Now, guys, ext4 has this method of creating lost plus found directory. See, we formatted SDA5 with ext4. As soon as you format a partition with ext4, it creates a directory inside it with the name lost plus found. Now, what does that lost plus found will do? See, I told you about journaling feature that anything whenever you are writing on the partition, if you have not saved that data, without saving, if something happens and you got disconnected to the server, that data will automatically get saved at some place from where you can recover it. So lost plus found is exactly the same thing like you have it on airports or railway stations or bus stops where you will find or you can claim your lost things. So same way, anything due to calamity, whatever is lost, will be captured and stored in lost plus found directory. So that is ext4 method to store your lost data in a directory called lost plus found that is created automatically after you format it, which stores your lost data, right? Now let me add some files to this location. I'll say touch file 1 to 5. You can add files, you can add directories, there is no problem. So I just added 5 files and 5 directories into my test folder. Now guys, one answer you need to find here. Where is my data right now? I can see the data is inside test directory. But the question is it really inside test directory or it is in my partition? Now guys, we need to find an answer for that. A simple thing, what I can explain you is, suppose you have a pen drive and you connect it to an HP laptop, for example. Now, through HP laptop, you can see the content of that pen drive and you can make changes inside it. So where the data is getting stored? In the pen drive, obviously, right? HP laptop is just an access point. It is not holding anything. It is giving you access to your pen drive. Same way, although the data is appeared in test directory, but it is not present in test directory. Actually, after mounting whatever you are doing in test, this thing is getting stored on your partition. Test is just like a laptop where you are connecting the pen drive. So data is in pen drive, changes are happening in pen drive, changes are storing in pen drive. So same way, after mounting whatever you see in test folder, this thing is actually showing you the content of the partition. So nothing is getting stored on a directory. We are just accessing it through directory. If I leave the directory, you see I'm out of the directory. And let me try to disconnect it. See guys, we have SDA5 partition, which is connected to a directory called slash test. These two are connected. When it is connected, it is called as mounting, what we have learned. Now, if you break the connection between these two, this is called as unmounting. Disconnecting a partition with its mount point is nothing but unmounting. So when you break the connection, what will happen? Let's see. Guys, to mount it, we used a command mount this partition on this directory. But to unmount or break the connection, you have a command umount. Observe it is not unmount, it is umount. Now with umount, you can either say unmount the partition or you can say unmount the directory. Any one thing is required. Ultimately, the connection will break. You can say unmount the partition or unmount the directory. I just want unmount. Either you say unmount with this fellow or unmount with that fellow. I want to break the connection. Now go with mount and grep for SDA. Did you find SDA5 anymore in the list? No, that means the connection is broken. This is what the safely removal process that happens when you say eject a drive in Windows. It just disconnect the connectivity between the partition and the directory, so you can remove the partition or you can remove the pen drive easily. Anyway, now if you go and look out in SDA3, okay, Satya is having a question that SDA3 and SDA4 is not mounted. Good question. I'll talk about that in a while. Let me complete this thing and then I'll come to your question, Satya, for sure. So when I say ls test, do you see anything inside it? There is nothing, right? So test directory, after mounting, I stored some data, 5 files, 5 directories. But now you see they are gone. So is it deleted? No. Suppose you have a pen drive, you connect it to laptop. Through laptop, you saw the data of pen drive. Now, when you remove the pen drive, does the laptop still shows you the data of pen drive? No. It got disconnected, but it is saved in your pen drive. Same way, we got disconnected test from SDA5. Data stored in SDA5, it is not visible on test directory as of now. If I mount it again, for example, mount dev SDA5 on test directory. Go back and check the mount status. SDA5 got connected to test. Now, if you list the content of test, did you see that the data is back? So it's not back. It was always stored on the partition. Now through test directory, you are able to view it. When you unmount, the test directory is no more connected to partition. It won't show anything. When you mount it, again the directory is connected to it and you can see it. So mounting will just connect the partition to a folder, and through folder, you can do whatever you want in the partition. Once you unmount, the folder will have no contact with the partition. So it won't show data, but the data will be safe and sound in your partition. So mounting is an activity that allows you to access your drive and see the content of the drive. Now let me come back to the question what Satya has asked, that why it is not showing about SDA3 and SDA4 status of mounting. Are they not mounted? Let's find out. SDA3, if you see, is a special partition swap. So swap partition is not mounted. It is used by system. It is not used for simply storing the data. About SDA4, it is an extended partition. It's a container which has many logical partitions inside it. An extended partition cannot be formatted and cannot be mounted. These are special system partitions. They cannot be used for normal mounting or storing the data. That's the reason when you run mount command, there is no information about third and fourth. So third is used for swap. That is again a special concept. So it won't be mounted normally. Extended partition, it cannot be formatted. Even if you say MKFS SDA4, it fails saying that extended partition cannot be formatted. So they are not meant for your normal reading, writing, or mounting access. That's the reason it is not displayed. Hope that is understandable answer. Okay, now there is one more question coming in from Shabir, that can we mount one partition to more than one directory? Of course, you can mount a partition on multiple directories. But the next question will be, is it a good practice to do that? No. In a very special cases, you might see that a partition is mounted on two directories, but mostly it is considered as not a good practice to mount a partition on two directory. But as an experiment, if you want, you can do it. You can create one more directory and mount it, right? That is possible. You can create one more directory, for example, XYZ, and you can say mount /dev SDA5 on XYZ. Now you run mount status. Do you see SDA5 is showing on test also? SDA5 is showing on XYZ also. Now you check test or XYZ. Both are going to show you same stuff. So sometimes it looks cool, but sometimes it create confusions. So the best practice says that unless until you are working on a clustered or other kind of environment, we never mount single partition on two directories. It's like you're standing on two bike or cars at a time and trying to drive it, right? So this is not a good practice, but possibility is there. Okay, let me just get rid of XYZ. I don't want it to be mounted. I only want one at a time. Great. So this is the way how you can create a partition format and mount it. Now let's learn one more concept here. I would like to make this mounting permanent. See guys, as of now, we have done temporary mounting. And as soon as you reboot the machine, automatically SDFI will be disconnected to test. So again, after rebooting, you have to mount it one more time. One or two partitions you can mount, there is no problem every time. But suppose you have 10, 12 partitions or 15 partitions. Every time the system is restarting, if I have to do manual mounting, you see how much tedious job it would be. Hectic thing, right? That every time I have to remember that this DFI should be connected to test, SDS6 should be connected to test 2, SDS7 should be connected to my app. I should remember the mapping that which partition has to be mounted on which directory, right? So I don't want to do this job every time the system restart. I can make a permanent mount so that even if the system is rebooted, SDA5 should be automatically connected to test. To do that, you have to edit one file, which is etcfstab. Now the question is, guys, how would I know whether a partition is permanently mounted or not? The answer to know the partition is permanently mounted or not is in fstab. etcfstab stores only the information about permanent mounts. If your partition details are present in fstab, it is a permanent mount. If you don't find any entry related to your partition in fstab, that means it is not a permanent mount. It is a temporary mounting that have been done. So if you want to see whether a partition is permanently mounted or not, or if you want to make a partition permanently mount, you have to update etc fstab file manually. So go to fstab, add your partition detail, it would be permanently mounted. But what are the details I have to put in fstab? Before I can take you to fstab, let me explain you a small theoretical aspect related to it. Then we'll do practically inside it. So this is your fstab. How does it look like? In etc fstab, either you can search with mount point names or partition names. What is that UUID and all? We will discuss in the coming time. So if you want to make your partition as a permanent mount, then you have to add these entries. Total 6 fields are there in fstab. How many fields? 6 fields. What are those? Field number 1, you have to type device name or device path. Dev SDFI, Dev SDS6, whatever. Field number 2, you have to give mount point address. Test to wherever you have given full address. Third, where you should never do mistake is type of file system. Guys, while typing the file system, you should be sure that SDA5 is using ext4 or XFS. You can run parted-l and you can come to know whether a partition is ext formatted or XFS formatted. Then the fourth field is mount options. See, mount options are nothing but access permission. In this partition, can we read write or not? So default means reading as well as writing. If you don't like default permissions, strike out this line, remove it, and in place of defaults, you can type RO. RO means read only. That means after mounting this partition, you can only read the content of this partition, but you cannot add any new thing into it. Neither a new file you can add it, nor a directory, nothing can be allowed. It works like CD drive. So CD drive, if you insert the CD or DVD, mainly if it is already having a data, you can only copy the data from it or you can read the content, but you cannot make the changes inside it, isn't it? So same thing will be done with the help of these default permission. Default permission is reading as well as writing. If you don't like it, just type RO. Then the last two permissions, which are very close to each other, you see, those are dumping and FSCK. Now, what do you mean by this dumping feature? See, these are Boolean type enabling disabling concept. See, whenever system crash, I told you that system kernel dump will capture the information about the system, what it was doing, why it was failed. So if system crashes, would you like to collect the dump or information about your partition at the time of system failing? If yes, you can enable this feature by using 1. 1 means this feature is enabled. If you set it to 0, that means this feature is disabled. Now guys, only important OS related partition like root, boot, home, these important partitions require dumping. All the normal partitions what you are creating, you will find we will never enable dump for it. It doesn't require. Only OS related partition, this feature should be enabled if at all you want it, right? Otherwise, in most cases, it would be 0, that is off. Then the last option is FSCK or check sequence. Guys, there is a command in Linux, FSCK, which stands for File System Check. It will check the health of your hard disk or partition. Is it healthy or not? File system is having any errors or not? So during boot, whenever the system is booting, at the time of booting, would you like to run fsck command on the partition to check the health of it? If yes, then you need to set the order. Who to check first, who to check second, and who to check third. So here you can put the order 1, 2, 3, 4. So according to the sequence you have kept, in that sequence it is going to check the partition's health. So first root will be checked, then boot will be checked. If I have kept third, then third partition will be checked. 4, fourth partition will be checked. 5, fifth partition will be checked. Like that, according to sequence, it is going to check the health of the partition. If you don't want to check anymore, then give 0. 0 means off. Do not check the health of this partition during boot. Again, guys, if you want to check the health of the partition during boot, then you can go with root boot only. Those are important OS partition. Any other partition, whenever you like, you can manually run FSCK and you can check the health. So no need to enable FSCK. Last two options in most of the cases, you will see 99.9% will be 0 and 0. Will not touch those two options. So 5 fields are there: device name, the mount point address, type of file system used, and mount option. They where default means read and write access. If you don't want defaults, remove defaults and type RO. And the last two options are dumping in case of system failure. Would you like to take the dump or information about the partition? And last is during boot. If you want to check the health of the partition, you have to set the order. According to sequence, it is going to check the health of the partition. So anyway, these are the 6 fields what I need to mention. So let me go to FS tab. I know that SDA5 is formatted with ext4. So let me go to FS tab. You see, I am at the top of this file. The cursor is at the top. How can I go to the end of the file? Now, guys, here we have to recall VI basics, what we have learned. So VI editor, if you want to jump to the end of the file, you need to press Shift G or capital G. When you press Shift G, automatically the cursor will come to the end of the file. If you want to go to insert mode, you have to type I, and when you type anything, it would get typed. But guys, I don't want to type anything in this line. Let me press escape to come out of insert mode. See, I want to open a new line below the cursor, and then I want to go to insert mode. How to go to a new line? By opening a new line. So you can say small o. When I say small o, a new line will be open below the cursor position. Guys, just give me a 1 minute break. I'll be back after a minute. Okay, guys. So let me start by typing the path of the partition, that is /dev sta5. That is the partition what I am going to mount. Then you have to give a single space, that is enough. But in my case, I'm going to give a tab space so that there must be a good gap between both of them. So let me use a tab space, and the mount point where I want to connect is /test. Please don't just type test, you have to type /test, the full address. Then the type of file system that you want to use it over here. So guys, we have formatted with ext4. See, it is formatted with ext4, but you have type xfs. So this is going to have a problem while booting, because that file system is not correct. It is going to give errors. So make sure that you are not doing these type of typos and you are typing perfectly correct things. So I'll say ext4 is the type of file system. Mount options, I'm going to put defaults, read and write. Then I'll give a tab space again, and I'll type 0 to disable dumping, and space. See here, I'm not giving a tab space, I'm giving a single space. One more zero for not checking the partition during health. So all these parameters should be perfect. Anywhere if you have done a mistake, your system is going to throw errors while doing mounting, permanent mounting. Now let me save and quit. Press escape, colon WQ exclamation. Now guys, if you say mount and tail, you see right now, or you can say mount and grab, that would be the better command. So you see SDA5 is right now connected. I'm going to unmount it. Check it out. Is it connected anymore? No, it is not connected anymore to test. Now I want to test whether permanent mounting is working or not. How can I test whether it is working or not? One way is you can reboot the machine and test it. Now guys, I don't want to reboot my machine because on production, rebooting machine every often is not allowed, right? So how can I test it without rebooting then? There is a command called mount hyphen A. When you run this command, what happens? Mount hyphen A. A stands for all. What all? All the entries that are given in etc fs tab. So it is going to read etc fs tab. All the entries it will try to mount. If a partition is already mounted, it will skip it. And if a partition is not yet mounted, it is going to mount it here. So if you have done a mistake, it will catch here. Let me show you by making a mistake first of all. I'll go to FS tab and maybe here instead of ext4, I'll type xfs. It's a wrong file system I mentioned. Now if I say mount-a, it tells you that it cannot be mounted because there is some issue in file system type. So I mentioned a wrong file system, it threw the error, it did not mount it. Let me go out over there and correct it. I'll mention ext4. Let me save and quit. See guys, as of now, it is not yet mounted. Let me run mount-a. No problem reported. Go with mount and grab. You see automatically SDA5 got connected to test. This is what happens during boot now. Every time the system is booting automatically, mount-a command will be run by kernel and automatically your partitions will be mounted. So every partition you are creating, if you make a permanent mount point, every time the system restarting, it is going to automatically get mounted. Now let me repeat the whole story with one more new partition. So I'll go to fdisk/dev sda, the hard disk. In the hard disk, if you don't know what command to use, type M, and this is going to print the menu of command. You can type P to print the partition table. Type N for adding a partition. It says all primary partitions are in use. So I'm adding a logical partition number 6, which should start at this value 3184. So you see it is exactly starting at same value. No need to correct it. Just hit enter. To give a size, whatever size you want, I'm giving again a smaller size 500 MB plus 500 capital M. Print the partition table and you see your sixth partition is also created successfully. Now, if you want to quit saving the changes, I want to save this and quit. So let me type W. If you want to quit without saving, Q. To save and quit, W. Write the changes to my hard disk and quit. See, last time there was an error that fifth partition was not updated. But this time, do you see any error? No, it says the disks are now synced with kernel. So kernel and disk both are updated. How am I sure? You can run fdisk-l. It displays 6 partitions. go to cat and read the file proc partitions. Did you see that sixth partition is updated? So we don't have to reboot. Only when you have created extended, you should reboot to continue with logicals. Once you have created extended and rebooted the system, any number of logical partitions you create, it will get created and updated automatically. So if you just check it out, parted-l, SDA6 partition is not yet formatted. It is not showing any file system. So let me format it, but this time with XFS. So I'll say mkfs make file system dot XFS. This time I'm trying to format with XFS. And what is the partition name? SDA6. Now, if you run parted-l, it will show you that SDA6 is now having an XFS file system. I'll create one more directory here, mkdir. Let's say test2. So test2 is an empty directory. You can do a temporary mounting and test it. Mount grep for SDA, not yet mounted. I'll say mount dev SDA6 on test2 directory. Go with mount and grep. You'll find SDA6 is now connected to test2 folder. Whatever you want to do in SDA6, you can do it by going into test2 folder. So let us go into test2. Do you find any loss plus found over here even after mounting? No. XFS does not use lost and found methodology. EXT uses lost and found. XFS will also save your unsaved data, but it hides and save. A different approach will be there. It don't use any lost plus found. So lost plus found directory will only be visible on the partition that you have formatted with XFS. Okay, lost plus found will found only on ext, and here it will be found on XFS. Right. See, if it is ext series, like you have formatted with, there is a question that can we change the file system later? If you have formatted with ext3, you can change it to ext4. You can upgrade it. That's possible. But if you have formatted with ext4, it cannot be changed to XFS or it cannot be downgraded. If you are adamant that you have to change it, then you have to take the full backup of your data first, then unmount the partition and reformat it. Now, when you reformat, it is going to wipe out everything in your partition and freshly format the partition, then mount and restore the data. Directly, you cannot do it. Indirectly, by formatting, you can do it, but you should take the backup first. Okay, in this partition also, I'm going to keep some data. For example, my file 1 to 5. Now, where this data is getting stored, all the data after mounting whatever you are doing, it is getting stored on SDA6. Through test2, all the data is getting stored on SDA6. That's great. Now I want to make a permanent mount for SDA6 also. So I'll go to ETCFS tab. I'll open a new line by typing small o. So this will open a new line and take me to insert mode. Same stuff, I'll say dev SDA6, then a tab space. This time I want to mount. Please don't use same directory for two partitions. That is going to create a big conflict. Each partition should be separately mounted on a single directory. One partition can be mounted on two directory we have seen simultaneously, but two partition, if you mount it on a single directory, that is going to have a big issue. Conflicts would be there in understanding, so you should never do that. So slash test2, this is a different directory what I have created. Then I'll use a tab space, and here I'll mention XFS is the file system I use. Defaults is the option, and 0 is the option. Okay, now let me save and quit. Now I want to test whether this new entry I added is correct or not. So let me say mount and grep for SDA. Let me unmount test2. See guys, SDA6 and test2 is no more available in the list. How can I test permanent mounting? Same command, you need to run mount -a. So this will read fs tab. Any new entry which is not yet mounted will automatically get mounted. So you see SDA6 got mounted on test2. There was no error. So this is the way I need to work with that. So that is it guys for today's session. I'll be stopping the session over here. If you have any questions, any doubts so far, you can put your questions now. So today's practice will be creating extended and logical, formatting it, mounting it, and making a permanent mount. So any doubts are there, guys, so far? Anything you want to get clarified, you can put your questions now. Okay, I guess there are no questions so far, no problem. Please practice this thing and let me know if you have any queries or doubts later on. So I'm going to stop the session here, guys. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow.